Hi everyone, it's Linda and Michelle.
Hello.
It is Saturday and we are in the parking lot of the movie theater and we just saw the movie called The Smashing Machine. I would love to have a little time to process this movie because it was really a lot, but that's not how we do things. So here we are to tell you our thoughts. Do you want to start or do you want me to?
You could go.
Okay. This is a movie about a boxer wrestler named Mark Kerr and the lifespan. It's a true story between 1997 and 2000. And at the time he was competing, there was some in the States, but mostly in Japan, and ultimately for like a world title at the end of a series of fights. And so this show took us through that time period. And he was involved in a relationship with a woman named Dawn. Dwayne Johnson played Mark Kerr, who was the boxer, wrestler, whatever they call that. And Emily Blunt played the
girlfriend.
Yeah.
They weren't married.
Not until the end.
Yeah, it was his girlfriend.
And Mark had, in the early 1997-98 time frame, he had an opioid addiction. This is where the movie was like unbelievably realistic to watch. The part Emily Blunt played of his girlfriend was unbelievable. She played the codependent girlfriend. Once he went to rehab and got sober and straight, she had up to that point been taking care of him, and now the tables really turned and she became very needy. It's such a good case of why couples can't live in recovery together unless they're both working programs. It just was amazing to watch it play out. It escalated toward the end to where she really needed to be hospitalized, but it was just, you could see the escalation in their relationship, all while Mark was trying to, had gone to rehab at some point and was now trying to work a program and stay straight and sober, and also rekindle his career, like train and become the best fighter. I don't know whether you call it boxer or wrestler.
I don't know. He was kind of doing a little bit of both, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a very close friend throughout this whole time period, very good buddy, who was also into the wrestling, boxing arena to compete. And I thought that was an interesting relationship, because even though they were best friends, they were also competitive, especially towards the end of the movie. It became very competitive. What I saw in Mark, particularly, that I thought was kind of interesting, was that when he got angry, he got really angry. Now, whether it's because, like you said, he was on drugs that got that, but then when he wasn't, he was so sweet. He was like this little very kind man until something sparked him, and then he took off. He became very, very angry. But it was a violent sport, a very violent sport.
Yeah, you really did watch people get beat up.
Oh my God, yes, it was. And honestly, if this was something I turned on my television, I would probably turn it off, because it's really not my kind of movie. to see that kind of sport happening. And I know a lot of people love it. They follow these wrestlers, all that kind of stuff, but me personally, it would not be for me to watch.
Yeah, we generally don't take you through the end of the movie. We take you to a certain point and then stop. So if you don't want to know the ending, yeah, tune out now. Because I think what's important at the end of the movie is that, as I said, tune out if you don't want to know what happens. But at the end of the movie, Mark Kerr loses the last fight he's supposed to have against his opponent, and then the winner of that would play Mark Coleman, who would ultimately, they expected, would pit Mark Kerr against Mark Coleman.
Kind of expected that too,
yes.
Didn't you?
And Mark Coleman had trained Mark Kerr early on in his career, and they had become very best friends. Like when Mark Kerr overdosed on opiates, Mark Coleman came to his rescue and helped him through that time. They really were very close and rooting for each other. It was like, may the best man win. Well, Mark Kerr got injured or lost the fight before the last one, and so he was out. And so Mark Coleman played or fought in that last fight. At the end, he walked away as a champion and sat in a room by himself and looked so miserable. Well, Mark Kerr, who had lost that last fight, but had now worked through his addictions and through a lot in life, walked away happy as could be, smiling, happy, ready to move on with his life. It was kind of amazing to see the transformation that took place. Now, this is a movie. Who knows if it was real life? If that, you know.
They did. There was a little follow-up about Mark.
At the very end, you see the real Mark Kerr.
At the very end, yeah.
Yeah, and you see how his life is today and how it played out at the end. But this movie had so many different aspects to it. It just really, it was violent. It was definitely violent.
Very violent.
But there was a story behind all that violence, which really was quite a good story.
And knowing that it was somebody's personal story and how they resolved it, it also very interesting.
Makes a difference. Yeah, it does. When you're watching it, you can kind of, at least you're just not watching senseless violence. Like, there is a story with it. I don't know. I say go see it. If you can sit through that violence, go see it. I think it's a really good movie. I will say this too. We jump from time period to time period all over the place, kind of. Like, we don't connect from one scene to the next. We go from one scene to it, like in Mark's house, in the U.S. to in Phoenix, to all of a sudden, boom, we're in Japan.
Yeah. It did jump around.
Yeah, it really did. So it wasn't a cohesive timeline, but you could follow it. I mean, that wasn't an issue. So I don't know. How would you rate it?
I'm going with the 6.
Okay, and I would go with a 7.5. I don't think it's an 8, but I think the performances in this movie, especially Emily Blunt, was amazing.
And Dwayne Johnson too, his appearance was so different. You probably wouldn't even guess it was Dwayne Johnson in the beginning, because he looks like a whole different person.
Yeah. And then when you see Mark Kerr at the very end, the real Mark Kerr, they kind of look alike, except that Mark Kerr, the real life guy, is a little shorter, you could tell in real life, than Dwayne Johnson. But very similar looking. You can see why Dwayne Johnson played that part. I don't know. I think that there's a lot to pull out of that movie. especially in terms of watching a recovery program and watching a relationship through addiction and after through the recovery process. So I say see it. But I would be very curious about how you would rate it. So if you would go down in the comments and leave us a comment and tell us what number would you give it if you've seen it. Just because, I don't know, I've always find that interesting. And fill in any holes for us that we left out. And tell us what you know about the real Mark Kerr. And that's about all I have to say. If you haven't subscribed, we would love to have you as a subscriber. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching. We really appreciate your time. And I guess that's all we got, right?
I think so. All right.
All right. So we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Linda.